Welcome to the Pitchin and Sippin podcast, where we talk PR trends and tips over sips and meet a wide range of incredible founders, PR pros, and members of the media. I'm Lexie Smith, a former workaholic VP of PR and marketing turned two-time entrepreneur, founder of the PR Bar Inc., business and PR coach, new mama, and self-proclaimed connoisseur of puns, pizza, and wine. I'm a huge believer that knowledge is power and kindness never goes out of style. Think of this show as a way to uplevel your business and career over happy hour. Now let's get to pitchin' and sippin'. Amber Sabri is a creative consultant and founder and CEO of Azhar PR, a New York-based PR and digital marketing agency that amplifies female founders and minority-owned brands in the online space. Throughout all of her career endeavors in industries that have been dominated by the majority, Amber's mission is to help empower the minority and even the playing field. Welcome, Amber, to the show. I'm so excited to have you on. I have to also give everyone a little bit of background, but it freaking makes my day when I receive a thoughtful and effective pitch from a PR pro. And you might be surprised to learn that that's actually few and far between. Anyways, that's what I received from Amber, and she gets full credit for the topic of today's show. I just wanted to give you the props up top, but Amber, welcome officially to the Pitchin' and Sippin' podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the kind words. It's always nice as a PR professional to get compliments on a pitch because we're sending hundreds and thousands out a week, and it's nice to know that some are actually good.
It was good. It was an immediate yes and forward, and you guys listening and watching will learn why shortly. But first, before we get into all of that stuff, where is home base and what do you like to do outside of work for fun?
Sure. So home base is technically New Jersey, but I kind of pushed myself into New York any chance that I can get, so I'm not too far from there. I'd say on the terms of what I do for fun, it's a little up in the air, but if we count watching reality TV as a hobby, then I'd say that's my hobby.
1000%. Okay, so what do you watch?
Basically everything on Bravo.
Okay.
I kind of just realized I do my best work when I am binge watching any Bravo show. I just started Southern Charm from the beginning late last week, and it was like 9 o'clock, and I'm just like deep typing away on my computer, also listening to the drama in the background, and I'm like, Bravo is what has made me a success.
That is this has not always been a hobby or habit of mine, but in this new phase of my life, I get basically a break from my husband and child from 7:30 to like 8:15, and I turn on reality TV and I work. I kid you not, same thing. It's like great background noise. Once in a while I'll peek up and it's not too distracting. So I 100% feel you on that one. I don't know Southern Charm. I'm not familiar with that. So I'll have to have that on my radar. Okay. So beyond anything else before I move us on, any other hobbies?
On the reality TV show, if you watch Vanderpump Rules or you have, okay, good. I was gonna say I recommend it to everyone. I'm like, if you're gonna watch reality TV, watch Vanderpump Rules.
Who was just on Mulaney? We just had a gal on the show a few episodes ago, told me about the Vanderpump Rules scandal, that I was very late and felt very behind, but I binged all of Vanderpump Rules during the beginning of the pandemic. And so now obviously it's making headlines again. Yeah. So guys, if you are reality TV show humans, you have now 2 recommendations, or you've already watched them. And then I guess, do you have another one?
I mean, any of the Housewives really, like, and honestly, anything on Bravo. You can't go wrong.
Bravo. This podcast was paid for by Bravo. Just kidding. I wish. Maybe one day. All right. So you started a successful PR agency at the age of 24 years old, which you guys watching and listening can't see her, but shout out to our podcast producer, Kaylee, who's today is her 24th birthday. Actually, I just connected that dot. So 24. Wow. Okay. Talk me through what came before that in life and business that led up to this moment of you launching at such a young age.
Yeah, so I will preface this. I did not anticipate this plan happening whatsoever. I always kind of knew I wanted to work in PR from when I was like 16 years old. My mom used to work in fashion, talked about how she used to work with the PR department and all the cool designer parties she went to. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I can't design, but that's how I can get into the fashion world. So I pursued that through college, worked in-house, worked at boutique agencies, worked at larger agencies. And I was just like, okay, yes, PR is my thing. I'm going to do that. And then when I graduated, I worked in-house for a pretty decently large fashion brand for a little bit. It was just like a freelance job and I loved it and eventually moved on to the corporate world. That is kind of where I think a lot of change in my perspective happened. It was a great agency. I learned so much. And honestly, 90% of like my business operations, I learned from how I worked at that agency. But I was working on the consumer side there, and I always wanted to be in fashion or beauty. So I was like, I'll do it. I'll try and find a new job. And then I was there for about a year until I was like, you know what? I don't feel like I'm using my creative juices. I got into PR because there's the creative campaigns, the cool pitches, but the brands I worked with were pretty well established. You didn't really need to do much. Everyone already knew who they were. So I felt like we were very reactive and not so proactive. So
Mm.
luckily enough, it was the pandemic, October 2020. I was like, look, I live at home. I don't have many expenses. Why don't I just quit? Find another job that I'll like and I'll enjoy and I'm not feeling so like about it. So quit that job in October 2020 and then decided while I was on the job hunt, maybe I'll start freelancing. Like I have a decent idea of what you do. So coincidentally enough, literally, I think it was either that day or the next day, a South Asian fashion brand posted on their Instagram story. They were looking for PR help. And I was like, okay, this was a sign. Let's do it. Reached out to them. We started working together and things just kind of started to snowball. I had maybe like two or three clients for like the first 8 months, but that first fashion brand ended up going to New York Fashion Week. I made so many more connections. And then it just kind of seemed dumb not to pursue it and to go back into working for another agency. And I had a long conversation with my mom and my brother. And they're like, you're 24. What do you have to lose? You can always go back. And I was like, you're right. I love working with the clients that I had at the time. I'd love to continue to build that roster out and work with more brands. So, October 2021, I gave myself the October 1st deadline. If I'm going to do it, I have to do it on that day. I launched, and here we are.
Oh my gosh, all the claps. You
Yeah.
are, hell yes. I am a big, 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 big fan of, and soapbox that age is just a number. And that being said, I do want to highlight and give you so much kudos for taking on such a big step at a, technically speaking, younger age in your career. Yes, I've had my own career started off pretty young in a different way. I didn't launch my agency, but I had some more roles that were above my tenure, so to say. So long story long, firmly believe in the power of launching a career at any age. Okay, so Azhar PR. First, tell me about the name, and then tell me what does it look like today? Who do you service, and what services do you offer?
Sure. So the name comes from my mom's maiden name, actually.
Mm.
I wanted the agency to have like a personal connection, but I didn't want to be like Amber's agency. I'm like, I don't need that much attention on me. And I was thinking about it for a long time. I was calling my best friend, her mom, her dad, all of everyone. I'm like, I need ideas. And then literally just sitting on the couch next to my mom, she goes, what about Azhar? And I was like, oh, that sounds so nice. Azhar PR, it kind of rhymes. And it's an Urdu word and it means radiant or luminous. And it kind
Mm.
of coincidentally tied into like the mission of I wanted to illuminate these minority owned brands and female founders. And it all just kind of fell into place. So, to answer your second question, now we offer kind of everything really. We do traditional PR, we do a lot of podcast PR for founders and creators, influencer marketing, event management, digital marketing. We help brands with any of their launch strategies, whether it's a rebrand or starting from the very beginning. We kind of cover everything, and we really like to focus on female founders or minority founders. Basically, just want to help those people that aren't really given that first place, I guess, and really lifting them up and getting them a lot further in the ranks.
Beautiful. Okay, so that segues perfectly. I want to dive straight into the topic that you submitted for this show, which was the Gen Z perspective on the ever-changing media landscape. So good. So first, maybe everyone listening thinks this is obvious, but I wanted to clarify and put things into perspective a little bit. So I went to my good friend Google and I pulled some date ranges. Okay, I am a millennial, which means Google told me a millennial is anyone born from 1981 to 1996. Above millennials, we have Gen X. So if you're born before 1981, and then below millennials is Gen Z, which is 1997 to 2012. So first, I don't want to assume, but where do you fall within those generations?
So I technically fall in the Gen Z. I'm 1997, but I do find, because I have an older brother, I think I also kind of relate to the millennials a little bit. So I'm very much that zillennial cusp where I'm a big tech girl, but I also remember life without technology.
Okay, that's a real thing for sure. So let's dive in now knowing that. But when you submitted this topic, kind of what was coming to your mind? So broadly speaking, let's start there. What is the Gen Z perspective on the ever-changing media landscape?
Well, this kind of came to mind because as I was kind of talking to a lot of new business and I was pitching these other potential clients, and a lot of times the way I work, there are a lot of small businesses. So budget is a little tight. So maybe they want to sign on for everything. And I'm like, look, if this is your budget, the best return is this, and this service. Let's dial it down a little. As your budget grows, the scope can grow. So a lot of times everyone's always wants that traditional PR, which it's kind of that big thing. Everyone wants to be in Vogue. Everyone wants to be in Forbes. And there are some times where I talk to these small businesses and I'm like, I don't think this is the right move for you right now. I think with Gen Z, they are so focused on community and authentic interactions and kind of having that forward facing reaction with founders that I was like, you know what? I think people who are kind of my age and below relate to this when I talk to them. And then when I'm talking to people that are millennials or older and they're starting their businesses, they're still like, I want to be in magazines. And I have to remind them, half of them don't print anymore. So yes, obviously, as a publicist, I love magazines. I'm still subscribed to all the newsletters, read them daily, but I know I'm kind of rare in my generation. Everyone's looking on TikTok. Everyone's looking on kind of Instagram, but that's kind of what inspired the topic.
Touche. And it makes, God, we're in such a, I'm actually going to bring this right now because it's very relevant. You highlighted it. A lot of these magazines aren't even printing. We are in circa 2023, such a quickly evolving media landscape when we talk about the traditional outlets. Even this year alone, this calendar year, we've seen layoff after layoff after layoff after layoff due to a lot of things, but also AI. So that kind of, I just wanted to preface that in supporting what you're talking about regarding that might not always be the most strategic call, is going after the more traditional outlets. So is it just TikTok then? What is the most strategic call?
I think leaning into social media in any sense is a really good way to really target that Gen Z audience. Like I said, if you're Gen Z, a lot of them, I can't remember the exact percentage I remember reading, but a good majority of them use TikTok as their Google. SEO, it is the biggest thing. Even Instagram has started implementing that. If you're a creator, they're telling you to add these SEO terms so that you're more searchable. So I recommend a lot of times for any client that has a small budget, but they want to make that impact, how can we build a community? And I usually recommend we do that through social media, working with creators or just authentic, just genuine people who are already customers and events. I found back in February, I hosted a gifting suite for my clients. We just set up, we invited a bunch of media creators, creators we've previously worked with, creators we've never worked with. And I found we had such a bigger impact after that gifting suite in the feedback that we got, the posts that we got, even the media interest that we got, because they got that one-on-one interaction with the founder, seeing the product, and it was just a lot more authentic. Because me telling my story about my agency, obviously it seems a lot more authentic than if I had like a spokesperson. And I think that authenticity and interacting with them, so on like focusing on them and building that community, makes such a bigger impact that is 9 times out of 10 what I recommend first above traditional PR.
Did you know that I send out a community newsletter roundup every Tuesday, chock full of resources, free media kit downloads, event invites, journalist contacts, visibility opportunities. Basically, if you're not on the list, hit pause and sign up. It's super simple. Go to theprbarinc.com/newsworthy. That link is in the show notes. Okay, back to the show. So when you say creator, just to confirm, can we also assume essentially that's the better word to call an influencer?
Yeah, I use them kind of interchangeably, but I also find that there are influencers and then there are also creators. I think there are people who just create content and it's not directly influencing. But if you're someone who just likes the aesthetics, the Pinterest creators, they're not influencers. And then I also feel like with TikTok, anyone can kind of blow up, anyone can create content. That we do a lot of product giftings for our clients. And we found that if we see a brand or someone, just anyone really on TikTok talking about a similar product or talking about their concern, we're going to reach out to them to see if we can send them a product. They're not an influencer, but they create this content. Everyone kind of has that ability to go viral, that we kind of just lay it out and lay the terms that anyone can really get product, because everyone creates content at this point.
So if you are working with small business and there's budget limitations, and let's say you decide, all right, we have 100 giftable products that we've allotted for this year. In that sense, how would you go about prioritizing or selecting which creators to gift to?
So we normally do it in like a 50-50 sense of who are the people that are actively engaging in either our content already or very similar content, or maybe just like our competitors, who's also working with them. We look into who has needs that need to be filled that our product can do, and then who just creates nice content, and you can see that there is like engagement there. Even if they're not a creator, you could still see someone having 50 plus comments. So we kind of divvy it up that way. A lot of times we split it between TikTok and Instagram because most Gen Z is on TikTok, but I do still find Instagram. I tell this to people, I feel like Instagram is like the LinkedIn for creators. Everyone still goes back to Instagram. You always have that. So I always think it's good to have a place there, even if most of your audience is on TikTok, because they're always going to go back and forth.
Great.
So we kind of get it up that way.
Okay. So next question, let me rephrase. How do you approach with gifting? Are you running into people who want payment? Are you prefacing it up front that you're willing to offer payment? Are you asking for stipulations? Talk me through what that process looks like.
We're very open with the fact that this is a small business. We don't have budget. We would love to send you this product for you to try it out. Obviously, we would appreciate if you post, but if not, we totally understand. And we kind of go about that in the respectful way. We find that if we're not pushing them to post, if they actually like the product, they're going to post it. And at the end of the day, that's what we want. If someone just posts an Instagram story of, here's the PR that I got, not as impactful of if they actually try the product and then they've posted it 3 times later and they're like, oh my God, I actually love this so much. So we would rather just build that relationship of being respectful of them, their time, the content they create, their work, and just get in the door that way and just continue the conversation. We do check-ins every like month or two and be like, hey, did you get to try out the product? How's it going? And just being really respectful. And we find that we get a lot of that respect in return.
Now, are you on the brand side, on the client side? Are a lot of your clients the founders also Gen Z, or are they in various groups?
Various groups, a lot of them actually are a bit older than me. So they're either millennials, and I think I've had one or two that I either late millennials or like early Gen X. So I think they're a little trusting of understanding I am younger, so I understand the social media. They come to me because they don't understand that landscape so
That's
much.
where I was headed. Yeah, I was like, are they understanding? Because there's a lot of pressure in PR often to provide something tangible in terms of a return. So if you're not, for example, giving a creator a coupon code, how are you going about tracking the success of your campaigns?
We kind of track the success. We do give them coupon codes or affiliate links, whatever way we can, because obviously that is a little bit more of an incentive. But we measure that success with how often are they still engaging with our content and posting with it. So after that gifting suite, there is one influencer that I constantly see. She's still posting about the products that she was able to get from that gifting suite. And it's been almost 3 months. So kind of seeing that we're constantly seeing that engagement, although it may not be like a direct, sorry, my light was just flickering.
You're totally fine.
Even though we're not seeing like a direct like analytics of like this is the reach, this is the impressions, but we're seeing her name over and over and over again, we know that we made an impact there, and that's a relationship we can continue to nurture. So we kind of lean in that way in terms of finding out what is successful.
Now, this might be maybe this is or isn't a difficult question. You get to leverage, to your point, you called this out, that you are of a younger generation. What if, apparently I'm an old person, quick squirrel. I was at the park with my daughter the other day and I asked the kids how old is to them. And they said 20. And I was like, okay, so I'm a grandma. Cool. Anyways, so if us old people or, millennials, Gen X, want to communicate to our clients this strategy, but we can't say, look, I'm Gen X, trust me. Do you have any advice? Are there places you go to gather statistics that we could help leverage to make up for the lack of us not being Gen Z?
I think it kind of helps. I do use somewhat of statistics, or I bring up some points that I read in articles or newsletters or whatever. And I kind of tell them, I'm like, look, this is your product. We've established that your audience kind of leans on to Gen Z. So we need to lean into what are their buying habits, what are their consuming habits, whether it's social media, traditional PR, whatever. So I've been lucky enough where a lot of my clients, their target market is Gen Z. So it works out that I can tell them, look, we see through our work that this has been successful. If we do this kind of social strategy, Gen Z is really leaning into TikTok, or they're leaning into this. Let's move there. But sometimes we'll get pushback, and I'll tell them, I'm like, look, let's split it 50-50. We'll do it a little bit your way and a little bit our way, and then we can regroup and re-strategize. I know sometimes, because people always, they still want that traditional PR. So I will say, okay, let's give it a try. I don't want to completely shut you down because that's what you want. At the end of the day, I'm providing services to fulfill your wants. So we do it that way. And then I offer like, let's just re-strategize and really take a look at what's working. Normally by then they're understanding and they're like, okay, I see, we understand. So I kind of like overly communicate about the generation and their consumers and their audience. And luckily enough, that's been pretty effective so far.
Yeah, I love it. You're brilliant. I'm on board. Sign me up. Wait, I'm not a fashion client. Okay. So this begs another conversation that is not new, but is evolving. And I want to hear your perspective specifically on it. The lines between the categories of firms, so digital marketing, social media marketing firms, PR firms, how do you foresee those lines blurring, those lines not blurring, the technical differences evolving in the next 5 or 10 years? Like, is PR just going to become helping people mainly figure out how to engage and create authentic conversations on social media, therefore merging the roles of social media and PR? Or just kind of high level, do you have any thoughts in that category?
I think it's going to evolve just a little bit more digitally. I don't think PR is going to kind of like cease to exist or focus primarily on social media. I think we're seeing it now where a lot of traditional PR can be turned into podcast PR. We're seeing a lot of people are being forward-facing founders. That's the way that they're really conveying their message. So podcasts are everywhere. People are leaning into that, and that's very much evergreen content, and it's so searchable. Obviously, traditional PR, everyone still wants that. It still kind of holds that in the back of our minds. We're like, we still feel so much more credible if we were quoted in Forbes or we were quoted in Refinery 29. So I think it's still there. I think it's going to focus more on the founder, the brand story, and it's going to be more of that expert commentary and that podcast appearance. I think the lines are going to blur a little in terms of like how we work with influencers, and that's going to be a little PR versus digital marketing. But I do still see a little bit of a divide there where when I think of digital marketing, that's email newsletters, SMS marketing, kind of like the more like digital advertising, I guess. I think that's where you can see a little bit harsher of a divide, but there is definitely a little bit of overlap. I've worked with digital marketing agencies where we have our own kind of scope of work that overlaps, and we have to clearly define what does that mean for each of us. But that's kind of where I see it going in the next 5 to 10 years, really.
Yeah, I don't disagree with everything that you just said. I don't disagree with anything you just said, period. That's what I meant to say. So last question on this line of thinking or this train of thinking. In terms of influencers, so when we do bridge over from a creator to an influencer in the sense of which I'm using it, someone with a larger following, are you still running into seeing that there's a paywall of sorts to work with them?
Yeah, I actually think there's even more of a paywall because of TikTok. And I'm very iffy on TikTok a little bit. Like I love it, but in terms of the creator world and influencers, I think it's kind of made our jobs a little tougher. When we look at those OG influencers, they started by organically sharing, like, okay, think of the beauty gurus, already showing the products that they were using, how they did their makeup routine. And then brands were like, oh, this is something we could leverage. They have a good following. Let's lean into that. Let's work with them. Now, I think because influencing has been such a big thing, so many kids these days want to be influencers. It's not even like I want to be a teacher or a doctor, that TikTok has kind of ruined that, where everyone kind of feels like they need to be paid right away, which I'm all for paying creators and giving them credit for the work that they do because it is hard work. But there is also of, yes, we want to build a relationship with them, but they need to build a relationship with us. It's not one-sided, it's a two-way street because it's so authentic. If anything, we want to know your feedback on the product. So I think there is a big paywall that we're seeing, but it's a little bit of like trying to navigate that conversation of, we'd love to start this relationship. We don't want to jump into anything because we don't want you pushing something that isn't genuine to you. And you don't want to push something to your audience that you don't even care about just because you're paying for it, getting paid for it. So the paywall issue is there, and it's a little tricky navigating that conversation, but it's always worth having because we want to keep that community, that authenticness, the genuine conversation there, and we don't want to lose it.
So this is very broad, but to kind of speak to maybe how one of those conversations might go, or to kind of recap maybe what I'm hearing, would it be, hey, Sarah, we're naming the influencer Sarah. Hi, Sarah, I respect you're an influencer creator, not those words, whatever. Intro. We'd love to have you experience the product first before we kind of engage in any sort of official paid relationship, and that's prefaced up front. Or what is the language? Do you have any language you can offer broadly that's helpful in navigating when you just first up hit a paywall?
That is kind of the conversation that we go. It kind of is, we love your content. We think it's really great. We think our product would be a great fit. We'd love to send it to you and see how you like it and explore opportunities in the future. Even say like, we don't have campaigns right now, but we'd love to build that relationship now. I think really just being transparent of, we don't have something right now, but we want to keep you in mind for the future and make it known that you were reached out to for a reason. And we just want to make sure that from both sides it works out.
Beautiful. And then quick, I lied. This is my last question on this. Any absolutely do not do this in terms of creator influencer relationships and social media, things that people should avoid if they're just dipping into this world?
I think on the creator side, if anyone's listening, don't shut down brands just because they're gifting you product. Build that relationship. That will do you so much better than if you don't even build that relationship. Think of it as networking. Just because maybe you may not be offering me something to right now, in the future, it could lead to anything. It's all networking in terms of like the gifting. And then on the brand side, I think this happens a lot for some of the older generations, is don't look down on the influencers. They are our colleagues. We're in the same industry. We're on the same team with the same goals of building that audience, building that community. They're just a gateway to get to that community. So don't look down on the content they create or the work that they do, because it is so impactful for us.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of that. This specific topic really highlights the difference in generations. And what I'm hearing you saying is really kind of a bridging of generation, that helping us all understand that we're in this together. So preach. I love it. Okay. So I have to ask, we've talked TikTok and kind of Pitchin. Yeah, we talked Pitchin TikTok. What can we find you sipping? What is your favorite beverage, alcoholic or non-alcoholic, of course?
If there is any opportunity for me to get a drink, I'm drinking a Coke. It just, any time of the day, doesn't matter where I am. If I see a Coke on the menu, I have to get a Coke.
No, see, I feel like that's not very Gen Z of you.
I agree. I think that's where my millennialness shines through. I'm come from a family that loves McDonald's and we love Coke.
Oh my gosh.
That's all I'm drinking. That's all I'm eating if I could, all day, every day.
So healthy. Just kidding. I have way worse. I like Diet Cokes. I love me a good Diet Coke once in a while. So, but Coke, man, like the sugar. Classic.
I got a sweet tooth.
Fair enough. So last question for you today is, where can people go to connect with you and to learn more about your firm and explore your services?
Yeah, well, you can find us on our website, azharpr.com. We have Instagram, we're on Pinterest, LinkedIn, Azhar Public Relations on all of those. And if you want to connect with me directly, I'm on Instagram, Miss Amber Sabri. Always open in the DMs, always love chatting with people, especially in this industry. So don't be shy.
This was I'm feeling very personally enlightened from this conversation. I felt this was very refreshing and really, really helpful. So thank you again for your thoughtful pitch and for coming on the Pitchin and Sippin podcast. And until next time, everyone, cheers. Hey guys, if you are enjoying the Pitchin and Sippin podcast, please do me a huge favor and leave a review wherever you are listening. If you want to connect with me to learn more about the PR Bar Inc., you can do so on Instagram at @thePRBar_Inc., or you can check out my website at theprbarinc.com. Cheers!